So, Gerald, this show really took a lot of people by surprise. Were you surprised by the success?
No, no. When I read the script the first time, I thought this show reminded me of really good shows when I was a young man, and it like took me back to a different era in television. Not that it's old-fashioned, it isn't at all. The flash forward, flashback, all of that stuff is, you know, I suppose hip is as good a word as any, but the quality of the writing was there, and the quality of the people that had been created was there. And that's the essential thing. There were no bad people. There was no melodrama to it. It was real drama about real people. And it didn't shy away from emotions, but it didn't play on them, which is, you know, a very fine line to walk. It can give in to sentimentality, but it didn't. It stayed on target.
And your role, it's a small role, but it's a very pivotal role. I mean, in the first episode, you act as the father figure that Jack needs at that exact moment. Can you talk a bit about that?
Well, it's, you know, that old Stanislavski sort of saying, there are no small roles. But this was so exceptionally well written, and you never see a monologue like that on network television, and yet there it was, and it worked, and they trusted it to work. But the words were so rich, they were so good, it told such a grand story, and they trusted that it would, and it did, and that I just fell in love with.
And one of the highlights of this season was certainly the...
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
I said one of the highlights of this season was certainly the episode where we get a lot of backstory into your character.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about having that episode that centered so much on you?
Well, the episode itself, it was an interesting thing to explore. Dan's take on what Dr. K must have been through to get him to the place where he was in the pilot. It was a fascinating process to go through. But then the stuff of dealing with his late wife and being a widower was actually fairly easy for me. All I had to do was imagine myself in that situation, and all these emotions came completely unbidden.
Well, I hope you come back for season 2.
Thank you. Thank you. Put in a good word for me if you would.
I will.